Welcome back. Now, when does the scandal become a crisis? Last week's humiliating U-turn by the government over censure for Owen Paterson taking money from companies and asking questions on their behalf has developed into a full-blown crisis over political lobbying. The Speaker is reportedly considering a review into MPs' paid consultancy rules, and Tory MPs who backed the government, many through gritted teeth and voted to delay Owen Paterson's suspension, are said to be furious with Downing Street and the whips. It's a mess. But how serious a mess is it? Joining me now is a titan of political journalism, Christopher Hope, Chief Political Correspondent and Assistant Editor of the Daily Telegraph. What are you laughing at? You are a titan. That's why we've got you on today. You're very welcome. It is a fine mess that the government has got itself into. A massive error of judgment or an attempt to do the right thing by a colleague that they like who has had a terrible year following the suicide of his wife?
It's definitely the latter. The idea had been that they'd seen the need to bring in some way of appealing if you're an MP, you're found guilty, and how could you appeal that method? So they thought if they attached it to this Owen Paterson vote last Wednesday, there was enough sympathy in the House of Commons, given his wife killed herself the previous year, that it may go through. And that was a mistake, because I think we clearly found out, didn't we, how it played out last week in the House of Commons. And that's the worry they've got. So it's quite a mess now. Now, today in the House of Commons, as you said there, Gloria, we'll hear from Lindsay Hoyle, his plan. We'll hear from Keir Starmer, back from being off sick with COVID. They're sending out Steve Barclay, who's the former Brexit secretary, who is it's a very clever idea, that, because he is known to be someone who can de-escalate a fractious House of Commons. And there will be a lot of that today. We might hear, let's say, even more Labour MPs calling on the PM to resign. Well, that idea is frankly laughable. The Tories have lost their lead over Labour in the past week. The big issue is the by-elections coming up. We know that Old Bexley and Sidcup's on the 3rd or the 2nd of December. Will they go for North Shropshire on the 9th or the 16th? That's the key debate to have. It could be a nightmare before Christmas for Boris Johnson if this is cutting through, and I'm not sure it is yet.
This debate in the Commons this afternoon, is it just going to be a lot of heat, or do you think there will be proposals for how to clean up the system?
There'll be proposals from Lindsay Hoyle. I mean, Steve Barclay is a Cabinet Office minister. He got Michael Gove's job in the September reshuffle. He won't be saying, offering support, or it's really what Lindsay Hoyle says. We might hear a bit from Chris Bryant. He's promising plans for some form of appeal for MPs, which is what the whole debate's about, before Christmas. I wonder how much this is Labour trying to rely on successful attack lines in the 1990s, which almost brought down John Major's government, and hoping that works now. But the problem is, a lot of your viewers, a lot of our readers weren't even born when the sleaze narrative took hold on the Tories, and I can't see it yet. They'll want to have a series of scandals to happen to make this work, and it's not there yet. But I do wonder, they'll be watching these by-elections are the key thing they're worrying about. Number 10. Forget the polls, they come and go. It's the by-elections coming up.
And thank you for reminding us how old we are, Christopher. Now, Keir Starmer will be responding to the debate for Labour. He had wanted the Prime Minister to come and represent the government. Has he made the right judgment, the Prime Minister, by not doing that?
Well, he's trying to stay above it, isn't he? I mean, a minister said at the weekend it was a storm in a teacup, but they're hoping it is a storm in a teacup. They're not sure how much of this is cutting through. Of course, you've got lots of critics for Boris Johnson, both in the press and on the Labour side. Is it working, though? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know the Conservative Home website did a poll last week and had Boris Johnson languishing just below Simon Hart, the Wealth Secretary, and above Michelle Donnellan, a junior minister. So he is somewhere lagging behind in the polls, but he does bestride the Tory party in a way which no other leader has done. For me, I think he's the heir to Tony Blair, Gloria, in the sense that whatever Boris Johnson says is conservatism is what it is. He defines it, and that's why I think he remains quite strong in the party, and he will see through this. And because of that, he thinks he can sit this one out and not have to put up with 3 hours of difficult questioning from MPs.
Keir Starmer has demanded an apology from the Prime Minister. He may not get one from the Prime Minister, but might we get one from the government?
I think privately, the government's whips do understand they made a mistake last week in tying reform to the system that they wanted to do for quite a while with the case of one individual MP. That was a mistake. They admit that privately. Whether Steve Barclay chooses to mention it publicly, I don't know. He hasn't really been in the frame on this debate at all yet, so it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say. I think it might help if they could be human and maybe say, look, we were trying to sort this problem out for MPs generally. We tried to tie it to a sympathetic case. We got that wrong, but we do think reform is required. And that's where, if I was advising them, that's what I'd be saying this afternoon.